why, I just, someone asked me why they haven't sent out an Amber Alert yet. Is it because they didn't meet the criteria?
So that question was answered very extensively, about 4 or 5 days in a row. I can have the California Highway Patrol elaborate on that if you can. Thank you.
Sergeant Strecker with the California Highway Patrol in Truckee, and essentially, yes, there's very detailed and specific criteria for Amber Alerts. And as much as we might want to get that information out, the specifications on what has to be met in order to meet that wasn't there. We, I think, collectively agree that the big social media push and whatnot that we've had has certainly reached a tremendous amount of people. So I personally feel very comfortable that our outreach in that capacity has accomplished what we could have accomplished with the Amber Alert. And certainly if things do change and that criteria changes, we would again apply for it and see if that'll happen from Sacramento. That are put into pawn shops.
You've received over 500 tips and video evidence. Within all of that, were there any sightings of Kiely?
So from what the detectives have reviewed so far, nothing has panned out. However, they continue to work and review video, and we're talking hours and hours of video that they're going to have to pour through, which they are. We've dedicated many detectives to.
So as you know, when you are under the age of 18, you're a minor, you're considered very at risk, right? And you're missing. To this day, we still have not been able to locate Kiely or her vehicle. And that's very disturbing for us, for her family, and for the entire community. And because we are treating this case as an abduction solely as a result of her vehicle not being located, that now intensifies the search. And so we, again, will not leave any stone unturned, and we have requested the help of every agency who is willing to help us, and that does include many local, regional, state, and federal agencies, and we're very grateful for their help.
And just clarification, you're treating it like an abduction but not labeling it an abduction?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes. Oh, yes,
Why
sir.
have some of the signs?
And because we are treating this case as an abduction.
So the California Highway Patrol is a statewide coordinator for the Amber Alert. And in 2002, the California legislature put into law the 4 criteria required to issue an Amber Alert. Confirmation that an abduction occurred, the person taken was 17 years of age or younger, has a proven mental or physical disability, they are in imminent danger, and there's information available that will lead to their immediate capture. So right now, one of those criteria is not being met for this case.
And because we are treating this case as an abduction. So as you know, when you are under the age of 18, you're a minor, you're considered very at risk, right? And you're missing. To this day, we still have not been able to locate Kiely or her vehicle. And that's very disturbing for us, for her family, and for the entire community. And because we are treating this case as an abduction solely as a result of her vehicle not being located, that now intensifies the search. And so we, again, will not leave any stone unturned, and we have requested the help of every agency who is willing to help us, and that does include many local, regional, state, and federal agencies, and we're very grateful for their help.
And just clarification, you're treating it like an abduction but not labeling it an abduction?
Correct. Yes. Oh, yes,
Why
sir.
have some of the signs?
Do you care to share that?
To be fully honest, my biggest concern is that somebody, and I've said this in other interviews, somebody knew she was drunk, offered to give her a ride home, and they didn't give her a ride home. And they could be across the world at this point with how long she's been gone. And I'm worried that I have a feeling, and obviously I don't know. I have a feeling that she is still alive and she's still out there and she's still fighting, but that there's somebody else involved, and that's not confirmed. That's just what I believe. I think there has to be somebody else involved in this. But
Since being arrested in Haiti for trying to steal 33 children and getting let off the hook with the help of the Clintons, as previously mentioned, Silsby has moved on to inappropriately continue to work in the anti-human trafficking sector. Silsby moved to Idaho and adopted the last name Gaylor. Silsby has moved on to work for a company called AlertSense, which works with a number of United States departments on their alert systems, which include Amber Alerts. Why would they let a woman convicted of trafficking children anywhere near systems that dealt with Amber Alerts? So how does this relate to the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children? Well, they are in charge of the Amber Alert program. The KOONS Family Institute focuses on research into child trafficking and child abuse, as well as creating legislation to combat child pornography. Thought you knew everything about Pizzagate? Just meet American sculptor Jeff Koons.
And I brought him some Play-Doh, and he made a mound of Play-Doh, and he said, Dad, and I turned to what? He went, voila, in front of this mound of Play-Doh, and he was so proud.
Koons is a total weirdo who has a plethora of shady interests and connections to go along with his very dubious behavior. Koons holds the record for the most expensive art sold by a living artist. Koons has worked with Lady Gaga, Marina Abramovich, and Damien Hirst. Qatar pays big money for his art. He is also a current member of the board of directors for the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. His first wife was a Hungarian-Italian spy and porn star. She was also a modern pop artist. Here's the truly horrific testimony by Koons' first wife, Ilona Staller, aka Ciciolina. But I told the psychologist in New York that I suspected my husband was a psychopath. I walked in on him nude on the bed while our child was playing with his jet, and I told him, it's not nice to do that with a child. I certainly saw other horrible things, but I can't tell you about them. In other words, my husband is mad as a hatter. Koons met the Rothschild family in Paris at an annual meeting that appears to be coordinated with the Art in Embassies event. Qatar, a nation known for funneling oil money to ISIS through clandestine banking channels, has taken a keen interest in Jeff Koons, and not just his artwork either. He is a frequent guest of the Qatari royal family, and Koons has played a major role in the development of their billion-dollar Museum of Modern Art. There is also this infamous Koons art piece, the censored version, which Alefantis posted on his Instagram. Koons has said that this photo was of his wife, but others have questioned the age of the individual photographed. As mentioned previously, KOONS is a member of the Board of Directors for the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The ICMEC was founded in 1998 by none other than the NCMEC. So, what is the NCMEC? This organization is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The NCMEC website says, in January 1984, NCMEC was incorporated by private individuals as a non-profit corporation to serve as a national resource center and clearinghouse on issues related to missing and sexually exploited children. The term private corporation is key here. They do not have government oversight. This means they act as a gatekeeper for the government to deal with child porn material, without any oversight over what they're doing, and law enforcement cannot get involved without them giving the go-ahead. NCMEC haven't exactly been responsible in this oversight-free role they are given either. They are in the middle of a lawsuit over their handling of child pornography, constituting a violation of the Fourth Amendment. The NCMEC is significant mainly because of the oddly large number of connections it has. They appear to have some very strong ties to Hollywood. Program. The KOONS Family Institute focuses on research into child trafficking and child abuse, as well as creating legislation to combat child pornography. Pictured with the KOONS in this photograph is Moira Harty, who worked at the State Department from 2002 to 2008 as Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs. Harty also worked at the Office of Children's Issues, which develops and coordinates policies and programs related to international child abduction. Well, she now works as the CEO of the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. In this photograph from the ICMEC website, we see Hillary Clinton, and the text below champions the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children's role in preventing child trafficking, abuse, and exploitation. To begin with, KOONS is very involved with the DC East Coast art scene, which we see here on page 10, as both Alefantis and KOONS are mentioned as being part of the DC art scene. Correct to the record paid Jeff Koons $50,000 according to their SEC filing, seen here on page 9. Correct the record is run by David Brock, who was in a relationship with James Alefantis, which we looked at in episode 5, Pizzagate. Here is the link that proves the connection between the painter of Clinton in a blue dress and Jeff Koons. So we have ties from the State Department and Clinton to the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and have connected Koons, Alefantis, and Brock. Furthermore, the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children have an obvious bond, and through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, we have connections to Laura Sillisby. Perhaps these connections explain the intense interest displayed by Clinton and the State Department regarding Sillisby's arrest. The closer to the top of the pyramid, the more interconnected it all is. Don't forget that all major art transactions are highly suspect, and that modern art, which is a farce at best, but is great for money laundering. Modern art has been a money laundering scheme of one sort or another since the beginning, and I mean all of it. In other words, it is a manufactured market. Manufactured to move large sums of money around without regulation and without suspicion.
And today we are going to investigate who looked up Kiely Rodni on Google before August 6th, as well as the week after her disappearance. So for that, we are going to use Google Trends. And if this sounds intimidating, don't worry at all. Google Trends just shows data reflecting the searches people make on Google every day, right? So next we are looking up and the entire 2022 before she went missing. And this is curious. You guys let me know down in the comments what you guys think. But in 2022, starting from January 1st, she was looked up from DC most, peaking on June 10th, and then about half as much Rhode Island. Again, we see Idaho. Now let's look at, this is roughly 2 weeks before Kiely's disappearance, and I chose July 25th because it's a Monday. So from that Monday, who looked Kiely up on Google? And again, we see DC peaking around August 2nd. And then again, going up towards her disappearance. Let's look at image search. So you know how you guys can put a keyword into Google and look up images for it, right? So this is roughly 2 weeks before her disappearance. DC was looking up her images as well as Alaska and Montana. Let's zoom out a little bit and see who looked up her images worldwide. And again, we're looking at those roughly 2 weeks before she went missing, and we see that Puerto Rico is number 1, and her images were looked up from there around the end of July, beginning of August. So this would be August 2nd, and then we see this peak around here, meaning that it kept happening several days in a row. Okay, let's keep looking worldwide. Image search. Let's look at another week. And we see Colombia. Colombia, the country in the northern part of South America. And I also wanted to point out here that Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. So we are seeing a U.S. territory here in image search, and then when we're adding another week, we're actually seeing a search outside, entirely outside of United States, mainland and its territories that came from Colombia, and it happened several times. And for example, this hill right here means it happened 2 days in a row. All right, let's look from the beginning of the year until today. I'm filming this on December 1st. Image search worldwide. So this huge peak is when Kiely went missing, and then less and less people looked into it, and now we're about here. So most image searches up until today, starting January 1st, also happened from Puerto Rico, and then half as much in the United States. And I wanted to zoom into this period right here, obviously before her disappearance, because that's my focus of interest here. And she was looked up. Her images were looked up starting January 1st until the day she went missing worldwide. And we are seeing Denmark, Finland, and Belgium. And for these 3, I personally think, this is just my theory, that these are VPNs, because when you choose a country for your VPN, a country to go through, you want to choose a country with good data protection laws, personal protection laws, that's not going to sell your data and give it out to everyone. So European Union is known for having strong data protection laws. So when we see countries in Europe, such as like Iceland or Denmark, Finland, Belgium, like we see here, as well as, other countries like Romania, Czech Republic, etc., Croatia is often picked as well, as I have seen. All right, so I think this is VPN. You might have a different theory. Totally fine. Please let me know in the comments. And she was also, so if, above 80% would go to Europe or VPN countries, right? Then about like 35. Oh, my eyesight is not as good as I'm approaching this age. So Ecuador, 35. Colombia appears again with about 1/5 of the searches. And next I'm looking at the week after Kiely's disappearance, who is looking her images up worldwide and up until the 13th of August. And here we are seeing Venezuela, Sweden. So Venezuela would be 100% and Sweden would be 25%. And then Argentina is so tiny that I would actually statistically disregard it, probably. Okay. Next, we are looking at the 2 weeks of Google image searches worldwide. And I want to remind you guys here that worldwide also includes United States. So for the week following Kiely's disappearance, no one, or not enough people, I'm guessing, We're looking up her images within the United States, but people from other countries did, right? And here we do see United States. When we look at the 2 weeks of Google image searches worldwide, again, leading is Venezuela, then number 2 is Morocco, and then in the very, very end, you know, we see United States, about as much as Philippines, which is pretty random, isn't it? So this slide bothers me the most because I really I don't like this corridor between like the US and South America and then into Africa. Moving on. Look at the month prior to Kiely going missing. We're looking at image searches worldwide, and number 1 is Puerto Rico. Now we're looking at all of the United States image searches the month prior to Kiely's disappearance, and there were searches from Wyoming, Maine, Nebraska, and anything below that is probably statistically insignificant. So here, to be honest, like throughout all these slides, like what bothers me is that Kiely has a Google search history at all. She was not a famous person, not a celebrity. Why were people looking her up? It bothers me in general that she has this history. All right, so now we're looking on city level. The month prior to Kiely's disappearance, who looked up her images within the United States, where they were located, which metro areas, and we get these like the most searches came from Wyoming and Nebraska, from these 2 cities that are about an hour and a half away from each other by car, as Google Maps informed me. Next, we're looking at the month prior to Kiely's disappearance within the United States. We're looking at YouTube searches. So Google owns YouTube, and so Google collects YouTube data. Which is scary to think that like it's probably doing it right now as I'm recording all this. Never mind. All right. So within the United States, YouTube search a month prior to her going missing, she was mostly looked up from Idaho and Rhode Island, and about half as much from Nebraska. And then I decided to look up Kiely by her legal name, seeing if any data popped up that way. And no, there is no data in the web search, there is no data in image search, there is no data in YouTube search. And it doesn't mean that no one absolutely never ever looked her up within that month, but it just means that maybe it was so few people that Google could not create a trend out of that, right? This colorful slide is named Witch Hunt, and I added this slide here because I really want to remind that this is a bird's eye view, and with this data, using this data, applying this data, you also have to think very broadly and widely, in a sense that if you see someone from that state or one person from that city, it doesn't mean that they're guilty, right? We might be very wrong about that, so let's not bully people, okay? And one more thing, when you're looking up something popular like Minecraft, for example, in Google Trends, Google has a lot of data about it, and it can instantly give you accurate information on your search just because so many people are searching, right? And then Kiely Rodni is a smaller search that you would need to track over time, meaning that you look things up every couple of days, every couple of weeks, until you begin to see patterns in what you are seeing. So I would be extremely happy, if more people looked into Google Trends. I just caution you against going in once and then drawing all of your conclusions from that one trend search, because this is not necessarily how Google Trend Search would work.
because we are treating this case as an abduction.
So this like bothers me the most because I really like, I don't like this corridor between like the US and South America and then into Africa. Slides, like what bothers me is that Kiely has a Google search history at all. She was not a famous person, not a celebrity. Why were people looking her up? That bothers me.